This is Candid Conversations with Dr. Mayfield, a podcast that resources parents, families, and friends with tools to have important conversations about mental and emotional health. This podcast is brought to you by Mayfield Counseling Centers, helping you find clarity, hope, and purpose. Thank you for coming back to Candid Conversations with Dr. Mayfield. We are so excited to welcome back Dr. Wes Stafford. Last episode, we talked about succession of leadership, success of leadership, and your rich experience with Compassion International from a little 7-Eleven sized shop to what it is now, this amazingly large and impactful community with, did you say 4 million children sponsored?
2 million now.
2 million.
On our way to 4.
I'm thinking about 10 years ahead.
Yeah,
like we talked about.
Yeah. You're such a young visionary.
And between our recordings, you had mentioned that there was one thing that you felt we were missing from last episode about succession.
Yeah.
Would you mind sharing that with us now?
I will, because if that captured anybody's thoughts, there are two groups of people that it would really capture: those who are anticipating stepping in to the key leadership role, and those who are anticipating handing it off.
Yeah.
And there are a number of things there that are really, really important as I look back on what happened with Jimmy and myself. It takes a remarkable spirit on behalf of the incoming, let's say president, for the sake, it could be any leader, but the incoming one has got to come in with a measure of humility, a measure of respect, a willingness to honor what the outgoing president did during their time. That's critical. The outgoing president has got to have a sense of humility, a sense of passion and commitment to the incoming person. So once the board had chosen Jimmy Miato as my successor, and he had gotten into the saddle, first thing I did when he showed up for orientation, 6-month orientation to become president, I had already moved out of the president's office. I had already talked to his wife about what kind of office layout and technology does he want. And so when he walked in the first day, the newbie, he walked into the president's office, which was now his office.
That's awesome.
And the reason I did it is the office is a bit of a tool for the president. And I didn't want people thinking we're just trying this guy out. We don't know if he's going to make it or not. But they could see I was absolutely committed to him and had moved out to a tiny little office about 20 yards away from that office, so I could be beckoned and called to help fill in missing pieces of history and philosophy and such. But once Jimmy had been in his orientation training portion for about 3 months, I took him aside and I said, "Jimmy, I want to tell you a few things here." And he admits this himself, so I'm free to share it. I said, "Number one, Jimmy, I have been, but now I am absolutely affirmed. I have got your back. I absolutely believe that God has guided us. You are the next president. There's no more trial here. I have got your back. I am committed to your success. Number two, from this point on, even though you're not president yet, I will not reverse any decision that you're ready to make. There is no key executive that is a sacred cow that you have to inherit and you can't touch. There are no programs that I put in place during my 20 years of presidency that cannot be changed. You use your heart, you use your insight, and I will stand with you."
It's so unconditional.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's an underscoring that I am committed to you and your success.
Yeah.
I said, number three, I will never speak critically of you behind your back. You do not have to worry that when people are commiserating, "Oh, Wes, he's not you, is he?" That I would jump on that bandwagon. I said, I will never criticize you, nor will I tolerate criticism of you. So, and what Jimmy says now is what you told me is I do not have to be looking over my back, worrying about, are you part of a conspiracy to undermine me? I said, no. And then the last thing I said to him, and I will always tell you the truth. If you see my lips moving, I'm telling you the truth. It may not be what you want to hear, but I will always tell you the truth.
Yeah.
Initially, I will step in and tell you truths that I don't know that you know based on our history, and you're stepping in as an outsider. But in time, you will be in the saddle, and you will come to me with questions about, shall I do this or shall I do that? What do you think of this and that? And I said, I absolutely guarantee you, I will always tell you the truth. In love, of course, but always the truth. And that gave him the confidence that I had his back.
Yeah.
So the roles that we do, I have to tell you, I love not running that great big old place. I don't miss budgeting. I don't miss strategic planning. I don't miss working with the board. If I'd known how good this chapter of life was, I would have done this 30 years ago. But Jimmy has said, you know what, since I'm from the outside, I am going to hone in internally. I've got a lot of stuff to learn and a lot of initiatives to go. But Wes, would you take the externals? Would you continue to work with the major donors? Would you speak at conferences? Would you write for us? Would you speak in churches on our behalf? And so that's what I have done every year. I tell him, Jimmy, you want another year or not? I answer to him, by the way, not to the board. Yeah. I answer to Jimmy. And I'll tell you one thing that nobody knows that I can tell you now is my executive assistant also inherited being his executive assistant. She's a wonderful lady named Angie Lathrop. And, there's power structures and there's informal power structures. Well, Angie has been around 27 years. She knows all of the inner workings. And so I said to her about the first year into this, I said, Angie, Jimmy's very nice. He may be overly patient. But I need to know from you when you think I have outlasted my usefulness. And the way we did it is in the back of my little credenza, I have a ship model of the SS United States, only about a foot long, but it's the ship that took my family to Africa when I was 5 years old. And it sails from right to left on my credenza. And I said, Angie, you'll break my heart if you say, Wes, I think they want you gone. I said, just do this. Just turn the ship around. And if I walk in and it's sailing from right to left, I will know I need to take the initiative to be the one, just like I did Succession, to be the one to say, you know what, I think enough is enough.
Let's just hope that nobody hears this and decides to go in and turn it around.
Well, yeah, no, I don't think. Yeah, luckily, I'm not there anymore. She joked that her husband, who works in the facilities, is just going to come and bolt that ship down. Nice. But I say that mostly because I'm talking to those who are stepping out. A huge part of the success is how that one coming in knows that you believe in them. And it's hard because when you have poured 40 years of your life into a place, it's very tempting to say, I hope people say, oh, you remember the good old days when Wes was in charge? And if you get that in your head, succession will not happen.
Yeah. Right.
You've got to delight in the success of your succession. And that has been our experience for these 6 years.
Thank you for that. I think a couple of things go through my head. I think, it's really good for those that are listening that are either stepping in or stepping out. Yeah. Let's speak to those that are stepping in. So those young leaders, that are maybe thrust into some things that they didn't want to be, or, but they're the ones that with the most passion, like you said earlier, last episode. What is some of your advice for new leaders, young leaders, as they engage and enter into whatever, this might be, whether it be marketplace, whether it be a ministry, whether it be a nonprofit, whether it be, education? What are some maybe, 2 or 3, 4 or 5, I don't know, top things that you think that they need to be considering for success, and not success in a, look at me, but success in a finishing well framework?
And finishing well starts, when you're 20 years old before you, when you first step in. I think the first thing I would say is put the aspiration to lead out of your mind and out of your heart. I maintain that leadership ultimately should find you.
Mm.
You shouldn't go looking for it. The second thing is make sure that you catch the vision, the passion, the sizzle of the place that you're stepping into. I often have young aspiring leaders come to me now, especially in this stage of life, being in sort of a retirement, to see if I will mentor them. And so they ask, Wes, would you mentor me? And I have a series of questions that I ask to determine whether I actually have time to do this. And the first one is, okay, so tell me, why do you want to be a leader? And what I often find is they haven't given that a whole lot of thought. They're like, because, I was the quarterback in high school, and I always tend to find, the roll up into leadership, and I love to win. And
It's quite the resume.
Yeah.
And, I try not to show too much on my face. And I say, well, tell me this. What do you want to lead? And again, I often will get a look of, well, I'm young. I'm not sure what I want to lead. And I say, well, okay, well, tell me this. Tell me what you really, really care about. Tell me some story that explains who you are and what's important to you. And inevitably, if I get a blank look like, what I often will say to them is, you know what? You need to go out and you need to live. You need to find your cause. You need to find your passion. And when you can come back in here and in a few minutes convince me that you care about something deeply, 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 then we can talk about what does leadership look like in the context of that cause, in the context of that purpose. I maintain that everybody needs a cause. Everybody needs something bigger than them, outside of them, not about them, something that moves them deeply. And I maintain it should be something that can move you to tears in 30 seconds. Either tears of sorrow at the need that needs to be addressed, or tears of joy at the victories that can be achieved. And I maintain that if you do not have such a cause, you are not fully alive.
Right.
And we do not have time for you to spin your wheels on this planet. Something that demands your time, your treasure, your talent. If you don't have that, look for that before you aspire to leadership.
I'll add one more to that, at least in my experience, is the things that keep you up at night because you're so passionate about it and wanting it to happen or to move forward or to see God show up.
I would put that on the tears.
Yeah, well,
side.
no, there's the tears.
It
Yeah.
really needs to.
Yes, yes.
Well, and I wonder on
And
that.
can I just say this?
Yeah.
I think in any work there is a passion that can be found.
Yes.
I mean, I think I might be a pretty good used car salesman, largely because if I were doing that, I would be thinking, you know what? I'm selling used cars because these clients can't afford a new car, but they need a safe car. They need to have something that they can afford without it being a big burden to their bottom line, something that their family can grow up in. And I am going to do my best to give them the best possible product, not so that I can make more money for the organization, because I can serve them.
Yeah.
And I would say to anyone listening, I don't know what you are doing in business, in ministry, in nonprofit, for-profit, but in it, stop and ask, what is the sizzle? What in this matches my heart? Why am I doing this? And I would argue, if you've been leading for a long time and you remember that you used to have that level of passion and you don't now, my argument is you better stop and retrace your steps and find it again. Or get out of the way.
Yeah.
Because you're taking the place of somebody who could lead what you're leading, but with passion.
Well, and on that, rephrasing a little bit of what we've talked about in this episode and the last one, I'm hearing a sense of this passion is that it gets done, not who gets it done. That whether it's me, the leader, or it's somebody else, and I get to be a part of it, it doesn't matter as long as what needs to be done is done. Right. And I can see that in your story that your passion is for these children in poverty. And as long as they are cared for, it doesn't matter who does it, as long as it is done.
Yeah.
And I can see that tying into some of the humility as well, and especially the passion, that it doesn't matter who does it. And if your passion is for it and you're recognizing that you're not the best person, then that tells you succession is now. It's upon us.
This is more important than me.
Yeah.
And I'm holding it back.
Well,
Absolutely.
I'd love to, that spurs something on that I think either you've said or I've heard other people say too, is just, the victories you celebrate as a team, the failures you take on personally,
That's right.
And it's and I think you see a lot of leaders nowadays, even young leaders that are in the spotlight for the success of the team versus putting the team up front or the cause up front and that kind of stuff, or blaming it was this person's fault or it was that person's fault and going, no, it was my fault, And that's it's a tough pill to swallow, but it's something that I think goes into this success category.
Yep. They say it's amazing what can be accomplished if it doesn't matter who gets the credit. And I maintain that the leader needs to get less than their share of credit and more than their share of blame. And you got to realize you got a cloud of witnesses. And if you get that backwards, if you take credit for something that somebody did that works for you, the whole place, you've got a cloud of witnesses that say, you know what, I don't think I can trust that guy.
Yeah.
Well, it was really interesting. Was it the first meeting of January with our team? I just said, hey guys, let's look at this for a second. And it just struck me that we haven't done this in a while. I said, hey, we had around 17,000 appointments this year. I said, I want you guys just to sit for a minute and think about the ripple effect of that one person that was sitting in your office that found hope and healing or clarity.
Yeah.
And they went home to a family. Now there's 4 or 5 people that were affected. I said, I don't know, this side of heaven, if we can actually understand the ripple effect, but let's just sit with that for a moment. And I'm getting all teary-eyed. They're getting all teary-eyed. But that's the point. Like, I think we get so caught up, or at least I get so caught up as a leader in, what has to happen next and passion and vision. And I got to go talk to this person and that person, that I have to remind myself to slow down and go, let's celebrate these things. And I've learned over the last probably 6-8 months that I've got to be better about slowing down and celebrating.
That is the role of the leader. The leader is the keeper of the vision, the keeper of the passion, and everybody's watching whether or not you've got it. And that's why I've seen a lot of leaders, especially those who are heading toward retirement. They got another 5-6 years and they're kind of on coast. I'm like, don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that. If you're running track, you know that the finish line is not the tape on your chest. It's 10 yards beyond that. You've got to run through the tape.
Yep.
In order to finish well.
Yeah.
And I'm still running. I don't have their organization to run anymore, but I am working just as hard in the context of where I now have been planted. Like the Haitians say, bloom where you're planted.
Yeah.
And in this role, I am absolutely passionate about it.
I'm hearing something in what you're saying, that the start of leadership is important, the end of leadership is important, and that middle part is pretty important as well.
It's all important.
It's all pretty important, and you can't coast. You really can't coast. If you, the guys who say, I used to be the quarterback, that's why I want to be the leader, they ultimately are going to get found out for that.
Yeah.
People know whether or not you really love and care for them. I maintain here's what a leader is responsible for in his people. Number one, he's responsible that everybody is in the right job. It doesn't matter how nice you want to be, how patient you want to be. They've got to be in their area of skill and ability. And a person is in the right job when they don't have to have a radically different personality to do their job than when they drive into the garage at their home and now they're papa or mama.
Yeah.
You're in the right job when your instincts inevitably prove to be right.
Yeah.
If the leader has put everybody in the right job, the second thing is you got to commit to their success. So you've got to make sure that they've got the right office, the right tools, the right assistants. In other words, what I said to Jimmy is, I'm committed to your success. Now, what do you need for that? That's the second thing a leader has got to do. Third thing a leader's got to do is let everybody grow. Not just climb through the organization structure, but grow. Lead a task force. Go get another degree. Go to a conference. Everybody needs to feel like they're investing in me. I can grow. And then the last thing, everybody needs to know that they are known and loved, and therefore they can trust the leader to be fair.
Yep.
You're not just going to get swept out through some arbitrary budget cut. Because they know me. And that was the strength when Compassion was small. We all knew each other's kids and dogs and cats and all. There was this remarkable sense of family, which I tried to keep intact all the way up until I left Compassion. Now, instead of 30 people, we got 3,500 people. But I worked to keep that very same thing. So a leader needs to look through all of their people. And it sounds cruel to take someone out of their job. But the truth is, if you allow a person to be in a job where they are struggling and they can't succeed, you're not doing them any favors at all, nor are you doing the organization any favors.
Well, I have thousands of more questions, but I'll ask them maybe offline sometime.
Okay.
I think that's I love what you're talking about, just the family atmosphere piece. We've tried to really do that here at Mayfield, but we're now at 23 counselors and 8 interns, and it's becoming harder and harder, but that's still the desire. So we'll talk more later, because I think that would be really good for us to understand. But Wes, I really thank you for just your friendship, but also taking the time to stop by today and talk with us. And,
it's my privilege.
And look forward to seeing what God continues to do through you and through Jimmy and through Compassion. And we will celebrate and look forward to seeing the day that it hits 4 million kids.
So, right around the corner.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.